Hey girls, welcome to the Asterisk Podcast. I'm your host, April Biondolillo. Hey everyone, welcome to the Asterisk Podcast where I'm your host, April Biondolillo, and today's guest, girls, I knew I had to have her on the Asterisk Podcast when I met her because this girl speaks honestly and was 100% transparent. I had the opportunity of speaking on a panel with her at a Christian university, and we got to talk to a room full of girls about dating, relationships, marriage, sexual addictions, and her story just totally resonated with me, and I believe it will resonate with all of you today. So, further ado, we've got Christina on the podcast. She is married to Micah Lorenz and has a boy named Levi. He's adorable. He's 1 year old, and
Yes.
she is getting her master's in theological studies and biblical literature and has her bachelor's in ministry and leadership. So cool. I love
Thank
it.
you.
So, Christina, welcome to the
Yes,
podcast.
thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, to be totally transparent with everyone listening, Christy and I have had the rounds of trying to get this podcast to work. So I'm just telling you, it's going to be good because the enemy is definitely trying to be like, it ain't happening. So
And we keep
I'm
showing up.
excited. Here we are. Yeah, we're like, we will do this.
Yes.
Christina, okay, so for our guests to get to know you and what you're about, talk to us a little bit about your upbringing. What was it like? Did you grow up following Jesus? What's your story?
Yeah, so I grew up in a home with two parents, my mom and dad, and an older brother. He's about 4 years older. And I always love to share that. And it's funny because I was sharing this with you personally too, but we were the perfect Christmas Eve goers. Easter, you saw us in our nice little outfits.
So cute.
But for the most part, I think maybe once or twice my parents sent us to a winter camp, but it was never a regular rhythm in our house of following the Lord. And but ironically, and I think truly a reflection of God's protection, is that we had a really safe home. And a lot of times you hear stories of families who didn't raise themselves in the Lord. There's a lot of brokenness, and we obviously had our own, things that we needed to work through. But for the most part, I still have a really beautiful relationship with my parents and my brother, and we're all doing really well. And so I'm really thankful for that, because when we started walking with the Lord, it was a beautiful transition and a beautiful atmosphere in our home, even though I wasn't raised in the ways of the Lord.
Absolutely, I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Definitely, I like that you mentioned the protection of the Lord and
Yeah.
all of that too. So
Yeah.
what was that like turning point for you personally, where it wasn't just like this idea of Jesus or kind of knowing him, but he became like your personal Lord and Savior?
Yeah, so I was a freshman in high school where my mom was starting to attend our church back in my hometown. And one day she came home and just was radically different. She was always great. Like, I love my mom. And if anyone who knows me knows that I love her, but she just was radically different. And come to find out, she was baptized in the Holy Spirit that morning. And so just, again, the atmosphere of our home changed in ways that it was my dad and I at the time, because my brother had graduated and went off to college. And so I just remember my dad and I, we were like, what is going on with her? And I mean, she was already fun, but she's like fun. And then like, she was always nice, but she is incredibly kind. And so that was just a shift in our home. And it wasn't until 4 years later, I was a senior in high school, where just some things that I'm sure that we'll get into, but things in the life of a high schooler that really tore my world upside down. I came to my end, my brokenness of just like, I have nothing else to try. I always word it in a way of, I tried so many things of the world and was still so broken, and nothing was satisfying. And so I came to my mom, who had been praying for me, obviously, for this length of time. And I just came up to her and said, I want to try it. Whatever you have that you say this Jesus guy is for real. I've tried everything, and I think I want to give it a shot. And so at the same time, I mean, God works in beautiful ways, but he had just orchestrated so many beautiful things that the girl on the volleyball team, who I just met my senior year too, her mom and my mom had been attending a Bible study together. And so they all three were praying over me. And so during that time too, my one of my dearest friends started inviting me to youth group. And so that also took off with me finding Jesus, of the works of my mom being really faithful, but then also this friend who is a sister to me now, but also pursuing a relationship with me. So
So cool. I love that. What a special part that your mom got to play in that. Like,
mhm.
she literally got to model that, and to
Yeah.
have, I can't imagine as a mom, but like having your kid come to you and be like, "Hey, I'm watching
Mhm.
your life. I'm watching what you're about, and
Yeah,
I'm realizing mine's not living up to anything that I want it to be,
totally.
but I want
Yeah,
what you have, you know?"
yeah. There were
What a
nights
testament.
where I would wake up and also come to find out that there was a little bit of demonic activity going on in my
Mm,
life. Um, and I didn't know it, right? Because there were so many things going on, but I knew darkness, but I didn't
yeah.
know the realm of it. And so there were
Right.
nights where I would wake up and my mom was praying in tongues outside my door,
Wow.
and just it just was like a weight lifted in my room. And so I have one vivid memory of waking up and my mom was kneeling outside my door and just praying over us. So
That literally
yeah.
makes me want to cry. That's so
Yes, it
sweet.
makes me
I
emotional
love
too.
that. I'm like, not me tearing up
Yeah.
on the other side, but wow. It's
Yes.
just what a beautiful picture, you know, of like
Hmm.
Jesus getting to use like your actual parental figures as
Yeah.
like, hey, like I'm here, I'm interceding. And
Hmm.
what a great message for anyone that has like a loved one or a family member, or even for those
Yeah.
moms that are listening, you know, struggling
Yeah.
with, how do I help my teen daughter like come to know the truth? Because you and I know like what it's like to be a young girl trying to figure out who
Hmm.
you are. I mean, that's the whole point of cherished ministry, of like we
Hmm.
settle and compromise in our worth all the time.
Yeah.
And the fact that your mom got to be a, you know, vital piece in that
Hmm.
transformation in your life is incredibly special. Love
Yeah.
that.
Really
Thanks for
special.
sharing that.
Yes.
So you mentioned a little bit of kind of like in your high school years, like just some brokenness that you were facing
Yeah.
and even like darkness. Share with us what that specifically was for you and how that kind of came before the Lord to like lay it down.
Yeah. I was around, I mean, just like any freshman, 14, right? 14,
Yeah.
15.
Yeah, similar.
Where I got really comfortable with the dating life, maybe too comfortable. And you go into high school and you're like, oh hey, like there's like real people here and you
I
like
love it.
me, so I like you. And just
Right.
it it never
This was
crossed my
good.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. It never crossed my mind how quick of a downfall that could have been, because I thought it was innocent, to very
Right.
find out quickly it was not.
Mm.
And if you go in to the walls and um, the realm of dating without one restrictions, or maybe not restrictions, but like moral compass to set boundaries, or
Yeah.
things that you want to protect, in our world today, sex is just thrown everywhere.
Right.
And so going into that blind, there were a lot of things that ended up happening that I wish
Mm.
hadn't.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just very much one guy after the next, moving around. I think I had a few steady boyfriends, but when you're 14, they're not that steady. And so yeah, I think relationships, friendships were just, I didn't know how to navigate them well. And so not only were I getting hurt, but I was hurting people.
Okay.
And so it was just a cycle. And I was getting my affirmation and identity from boys, from friendships.
Right.
Um, and because of boys, I really wanted to please them. So I would go into parties, and then that would lead into so many more
Wow.
downfalls of abuse with substance and alcohol.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was about 16 years old where my best friend took her life under the influence, and my world just crumbled. And I remember falling to my knees. And well, at first, I had watched her sister drive up to our house and told my parents. They hadn't found out yet that she had passed. And I remember watching them drop, they were gardening and they had dropped everything and booked it upstairs. And at the same time, I fell to my knees because I think it was a moment where I realized if my parents were running to me, then this is real. This is happening. Like, the shock was starting to wear off and the reality was starting to sink in, that she had took her life. And so I fell to my knees and I remember saying, if you're real, like if you're everything that my mom has said you are, and I don't know, I remember even thinking like, I don't even know where you are. Are you right here? Are you in front of me? Are you next to me? But I need you. If you're real, Jesus, then I need you in this moment. I have nothing else. And so, yeah, I think it led me to a spot where I was just hopeless and nothing else had been working and nothing else was showing me on my identity and things were falling apart and I was so unhappy. And so it was in that moment where I remember thinking to myself, I've got to try it. I have nothing else. Literally, if you're real, show me that. And so I would say that was the pivotal moment where I started walking with the Lord. And that was right before my junior or senior year. Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously, a lot was kind of unfolding before you of like, okay, you're kind of having this mirror in front of you of like, my
Mm-hmm.
life is not looking the way I want it to. And I'm
Yeah.
following everything that culture is saying is popular, the way to live your life. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not doing it, you know?
Yeah.
So turning to Jesus. So when you kind of, you know, prayed those bold prayers, and I love just the fact of like, you're asking these questions of like, I actually don't even know like where you're
Mm-hmm.
at. Like, what does this
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, I don't know what this looks like. So when you put yourself in that position, and what started to change in your life? Did you feel a change? Did you feel like there was just a sense of like wanting something new? Like you went all in? Like what was that turning point for you? Like once you went there?
Yeah. I would like to say I went all in because I think that is the really
That's the goal.
sweet and cool
Yeah.
answer. Yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, I think it was the process of being sanctified in the
Yeah.
Lord, where I really started to see a difference. But
Mm,
I think because I was placing myself in better situations, I thought it was really quick of a turnaround. But it wasn't until God really started revealing to me who I was and what needed to change that
mm,
I started to see a difference in my own life. And truly, that comes down to mentorship. I had and
yeah.
still have incredible mentors, and the type of women who like weren't afraid to call me out, right?
Love that.
And
Yeah.
that friend that I shared with you, that her mom was praying with my mom in their
Yeah.
Bible study, um, is still so vital to who I am today. And she was the one that would sit down and be like, "What's going on?" like I and she wasn't afraid to say like, "This needs to stop," or
Right.
"Hey, I think you think you're getting away with this, but you're not."
Right.
And whether that was, dating a lot of people again or secretly talking to a guy or whatever that looked like, um, it was in my mentorship that I think things really started to change because I, when you know the truth, but you need to hear it. Like
Yeah.
I knew I was claiming to follow Jesus because I wasn't doing the horrible things that I was doing before him.
Right.
And so I think it was in those moments where I was in denial of what was really happening because I wasn't getting, into alcohol or drugs every weekend anymore. I was like on a really good track, but I was secretly lying still, or I was secretly a bad friend, or I was secretly in a relationship that I shouldn't have been in. And so once those things were getting called out by my mentors, I realized that I really needed to take walking with the Lord seriously. Yeah.
Because it's very much the fact of like the Lord was after like the root issues in your life, but
Mm-hmm.
you could take away like the surface level things or the things that were more public and could be
Yeah.
seen.
Yes.
But yet the Lord's like, Christina, I don't want just part of you. I want all of
Mm-hmm.
you. I want
Yeah.
every aspect. So I like that you talk about the sanctification process of
Yes.
it was one step at a time. Like it was a turning point, but I think for
Mm-hmm.
most of us, it isn't just this. I mean, there are those people that are very radical. They just
Yeah.
change in their whole life.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I wish I could be like that. I'm a little bit more stubborn. I feel like where I'm like, I could justify this one a little bit, or
Yes.
like, come on, God, like, look at all these things I've given up. Like, can we give
Yeah.
some credit to that? And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but I want more. He's a
Yeah.
jealous God, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it goes to show too, like, he knew the call that was on your life. And so he didn't want you to settle or miss out on it. So he's like,
Yeah.
bringing these women. Let's pause a little bit. I didn't really put this in the questions for you, but I think mentorship is a really key aspect. And I think an area where a lot of women, even for myself, like I desire more of that, but it can be hard to find or hard to like learn where to position yourself to find it. What tips would you give to younger girls listening of how to gain mentorship or how to begin looking for that or identifying what to find in a mentor?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think mentorship is huge because it really takes someone to see the rawness of what you're going through for you to really change or for you to really accept what's going on in your life. And so I think, and let me also say that it's okay for mentorship not to work out for a season because there's been many times, to be really honest, where I've asked, especially moving to a new area, where I have asked someone to be a mentor or to, go out and go for coffee and sit down and walk with me and they didn't follow through, whether that was on my end or on their end. It just, sometimes things don't work out. And so I was really thankful that in my prime time of graduating high school, that mentorships sought me out. Because if they hadn't, I think I would not be following the Lord, to be really honest. And so it was my friend's mom, and that relationship with my friend really, I think, connected my friend's mom and I because we were in the same circle. I was coming over a lot. And so we gained that trust and that relationship as well. And then another mentor, I have two mentors. One was the middle school pastor's wife, and then the youth pastor's wife for high school. And so going to youth group and then becoming a youth group leader, I think was very much where that mentorship naturally happened too, where we were meeting for, the ways of the youth group anyways. And so it was very much, they sought me out too. But I think looking for someone, I would hone in on someone who has walked with the Lord for a long time. Because they know the nitty gritty of things and they know the mess that comes with following the Lord, of releasing yourself of your old self. I'm so thankful that my mentors weren't scared of it. They weren't scared of the hard conversations. They weren't scared. You need someone who will call you out, or in other words, call you higher. And so I have vivid memories, of, literally there was one where I came to a coffee shop, thinking I was going to have like a dandy little conversation with my mentor. And she's like, "So how are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm so good. Like life is good." And she's like, "Okay, perfect. Well, I need to confront you on something." And she's like, just like, boom, boom, boom. And I was shocked. Like, how'd you know all this? And then two, like, okay, like I felt the weight of disrespecting a mentor when they called me out, and that shifted everything. I really started to like recognize that I was hurting people because when you don't take the refining process seriously, you just stab people everywhere and you don't recognize it, right? And so if you were to be looking for a mentorship, look for someone who's not afraid of the hard conversations and who gives wisdom in it and who gives grace and who trusts you while you learn to trust them. And so, and then just ask. There's nothing wrong. I think there's a silly stigma of being afraid to ask for friendships, but also mentorship. Just ask. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and that's okay. But the amount of times that I've asked someone to be in my life and they either moved or, something happened and it's like, okay, it just didn't work out and that's okay. But then I have 3 people who also helped change the trajectory of my life. So, yeah.
I think that's all so good. I love the fact that you're talking about even just asking, because I have said for so long, because this is something I had to learn to do, is if I saw something in a woman that I wanted to be or I aspired, I wasn't going to just sit back and wait and think that they were going to see me and take me out. I was like, I'm going to go up to you and be like, hey, let me treat you to
Yeah.
coffee, because I mean, at the very end of the day, the worst thing that could happen is that they're busy and it's not the right time, but they get a compliment, you know? And yeah, just being one to take initiative in that. And then I think also, like, kudos to you, because with mentorship, people are going to give you that advice, they're going to give you that wisdom, but then you have to be humble enough to receive it and to act on it. Like, mentorship is not going to work if you're just letting them say things and then you're like, but I'm going to keep doing this, because then they're probably going to be like, all right, you're not ready for this, so I'm going to move on, and then you're going to miss out on like the goodness of what you could receive. So I think there's a lot of good nuggets in there, because I know friendship, mentorship, all of it, it can be a challenge, but we need people in our blind spots to sharpen us, to challenge us. And I love how you said not to call us out, but to call us higher. I think that is, again, the goal in mind. So something I want to take our conversation in the direction of, because when we were on the panel together, you were saying so many good things, and I had just met you, and literally I was like, I want this girl to be my best friend. Like, there's so many things about her that I'm like, she's so cool.
I love you.
When we
I'm
were
really
on
not
it,
that cool. I'm not that cool.
I don't know. It's kind of debatable. I've heard some good things, so we'll have to table that. But when we were on the panel for the women's event, you shared about the differences between you and your husband's upbringing, and you talked on a couple of different things. But how have those differences and how you were raised create any challenges in your marriage, or, you know, create good opportunities for you?
Yeah. Well, for starters, my husband is literally he's just the best. I know every wife says that, but like, he's really the best.
And you're like, but I really found him.
Like, I really have a good, incredible husband. But it was hard.
I love it.
To be really honest. Like, it was it was fun, because I remember thinking, to be very blunt, like, finally, I have a man that like didn't mess around and didn't. I was his first kiss. He was 24 when we met.
Wow.
And first kiss, first girl that he brought home, like, and that's a lot of pressure, but also, man, what an honor, because I wasn't just another girl, and he wasn't messing around. And I remember from our first date, we both agreed, like, this is going somewhere, and so we're all in. It wasn't until we got married that I had noticed those differences in our upbringing kind of come to the surface. Because I think when you're dating, and maybe even when you're engaged, it's kind of like you're still in La La Land. You're still in like, this is so good. Yeah. And I remember even telling some of my friends and being like, we're doing like really good. And then they were like, are you sure? And
you're like, what is that supposed to mean?
And so that was also a good spot for mentorship, because again, I had crossed so many lines with guys before him that I was compromising things, thinking it wasn't as bad, or well, we didn't do this, so we're like really set in stone. And I remember my mentors being like, but are you still upholding the goals and dreams and what God placed on your heart? Like, we we didn't have sex until marriage. And so I remember thinking, like, we made it. Like, this is like the first time that I really get to share with someone, like, we didn't have sex, and like, it was our wedding night. But then I had mentors who were like, okay, but like, why were you there until this time in the morning? Or like, what were you guys talking about? And I'm like, oh, okay, you're right. Like,
stop. I don't like that.
Yes, like, and not to downplay some of the things, but to really take into account of relationships are hard. And
100%.
And when we got married, he had brought up the fact of like, I actually didn't speak on this before, but I was uncomfortable because I hadn't done some things until we met. And I didn't take that into account. I didn't take his walk of purity with the Lord into account, because I had been so blown away that he hadn't kissed, or I was his first girlfriend, that I was only taking into account my small victories of walking with someone towards marriage. And so when we got married, a lot of things unfolded, and it it was a lot to take in, because again, to be vulnerable, I was like, we waited till marriage, so this must
Right.
mean it's the best thing of our marriage.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, like we actually have to work for this aspect of life together, or we actually have to talk about this,
Yeah.
or to be other like frank in this way, it's like, oh, I'm not just a thing that you play with. Like I'm your
Yeah.
actual wife, and I didn't
Yeah.
know that that was something I was struggling with until we got married, and I married a man who wanted me to experience joy in this aspect of life too. And so um it was really hard. I'm trying to think back to some of the things,
No. Yeah.
but there was even moments where I thought I had processed through some trauma that I had gone through with relationships and being physical, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden we're married, and I'm like shutting down, and I'm having flashbacks, and my husband has never ever done anything to me that
Right.
would have ever came close to being inappropriate. And so it just was like,
Right.
why am I dealing with this? Or
Mhm.
I don't even know how to share this experience with you because you've never gone through this. And then
Right.
it was on his end where he was, like, I don't know how to be a husband because I've never dated a girl before. And so our communication
Wow.
styles were off. And it's not even just the physical things, right? It's like
Yeah.
communication, it's
Yep.
commitment,
Yep.
um it's all of those things that I think the differences in our upbringing started to clash a lot when we were
Yeah.
married. And so yeah, it was rough for a good second, but we made it through,
No,
and it was
I love that.
it was good. So
No, and I think that's so real and so important, especially in like Christian circles to like hit at. Like, so thank you for being vulnerable in that
mhm,
because I've been married for like almost 4 years and I'm resonating so much with what you're saying and the
mhm,
fact of like, yeah, like when you're dating, when you're engaged, it's like this excitement, this momentum. Because again, not that it's the church's intention, but sometimes marriage is seen as the goal. And so you're like,
yeah,
yay, I've done it. Like I'm married.
mhm,
And then you don't always hear a lot of raw, real conversations about, wait, why is marriage hard? Like, why aren't
yeah,
we like, we both love Jesus. Like we're both pursuing like ministry. Like this should be
mhm,
like simple and we should mash up and how do you talk those things over? How do you like have conflict with each other in a biblical and honoring way?
yeah,
And I think even in the physical realm too, like there can be these like weird, like we're not syncing, like you think you're gonna
mhm,
get married, you're gonna have sex all the time, it's gonna be like because you couldn't and now you can, and
yeah,
it's all these things that are thrown at you and then all of a sudden you're faced with it and you're like, oh,
mhm,
okay, we've got to navigate through this and be honest about it. And I think
mhm,
this is such a really good conversation because I tell single people all the time, and I know they always hate when married people talk about singleness because it's like you're married so you can't relate,
yeah,
but there is just hardship in both marriage and singleness, and there's also
mhm,
blessings in singleness and in marriage. I'm like, dude, I didn't have to share my like finances before or like check to
mhm,
see if it was okay if I went to hang out with friends or
mhm,
fill in the blank. And you've got a kid now too, so I'm sure that adds another
yeah,
layer to everything.
yeah,
And so there's just this shift, like it's two
mhm,
people now becoming one, and your husband's issues and his problems and his frustrations, they're yours and they affect you
yeah,
and vice versa. And so I'm sure on his end, he's like, dang, how do I like be a husband to her in this and love her through this? And I've never
mhm,
been here. And so I think it really hits at that point of like the Lord being at the center and being invited into every single aspect.
yeah,
And breaking that phrase apart, it's because people are always like, what does that actually mean? Like Christians say that all
mhm,
the time, like Jesus is in the center of our relationship, but it's like it's literally like you're inviting him into every single
yeah,
aspect of like,
yeah,
help, we've never done this before. And that's the
mhm,
thing, you haven't, like it's a whole new world, so of course it's going to take time to connect,
mhm,
to make sense, to work. And so I think you are hitting at a lot of things that probably a lot of women are like, thank you so much, like that's so good
yeah,
to hear.
yeah. My
um
husband used to say too, like,
yeah.
we're both broken, because I used to joke, and maybe I shouldn't have, but I used to joke
Yeah.
that Micah was like the untouched lamb, like pure, perfect. And then we got into marriage, and he was like, I have a lot of flaws, and you need to accept that we're both broken.
Mm,
And I think it also just rooted from insecurity of not really believing that God had redeemed me in a lot of
Wow.
areas of my life. And so it just was, even in the way that we spoke to each other, or even in the way that we dreamed together, it was like I was always here and my husband was here in my mind. And my
Yeah.
husband so beautifully, again, because he's just great, was just like, no, we're here. Like, it's
Yeah.
our word is together. When we prayed for a word for our marriage, it was together. We do things together. We pursue
Love
Jesus
that.
together, and it's not here or here. And so it took a
Yeah.
lot of breaking down walls for both him and I to
That's really good.
get to that spot together. So,
Absolutely. I like that picture of like you're on the same playing field. It's not
mhm,
one greater or less than together.
yeah,
That's really good.
yeah,
So, in your marriage, like, did you ever deal with shame due to your past? Like, you're talking about like he's like
mhm,
the untouchable, perfect person in your
yeah,
mind, you know? So, it's hitting at that, okay, Christina's struggling with herself. Like, how did
yeah.
you process through that shame or that just that lie of the narrative that was being played in your head?
Yeah, it came out in different ways.
Yeah.
And so my answer to that is absolutely. I think as much as I would want to come forward and say like, no, not at all. I was
Yeah.
very, very much dealing with insecurity, and a lot of that came from shame. And so
Right.
I think it just took conversations. I don't think there was an actual moment where, God just released me of it, but it took a lot of work. It took having those conversations of sitting down and sharing with him, like, this is what I'm feeling, and I
Yeah.
don't know where it's coming from, or, this happened. And so now I'm like feeling this way. And so it just took a lot of conversations. And
Right.
there were many things, which I think is a reflection of how sweet of the healing process is with God.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I'm not saying it's all dandy, but there were just so many moments where things would pop up out of nowhere, and I would reveal it to my husband, and essentially confess things.
Yeah.
Um, and that slowly took away the shame, and to share with him, like, I've never shared this with anyone, and it's coming up because I think I just want to be someone who walks what I preach. And so if I
Yeah.
haven't shared
Yeah.
this with anyone, there's like shame dwindling inside, and there's rejection, and there's all of these things. And so I think as we had those conversations, God just would drop a new memory in my mind. And it wasn't scary. It was like God had prepared me for those memories to be popped up so that I could work on getting to the root of things that I had done before my husband and I got married.
I love that. I think that's such a great way of just the healing process.
Hmm.
It's a process and it is
Yeah.
going to be messy. Sometimes it's not going to look the way we want it to and it takes time, but then the end result is just, it brings y'all closer together, which I think that shows through the conversation of like, even with the tricky areas that you're trying to navigate or the differences, like that really does make y'all stronger. It really does make
Yeah.
your marriage more powerful. And when
Hmm.
we're vulnerable in that, like now you both have the opportunity to speak out of that to, you know, young people and your spheres of like talking with your friends and mentorship about like marriage
Yeah.
of like it's beautiful, but anything that's like good and rewarding, like it comes with hard work and it's
Yeah.
not something that just develops overnight. And so I think that's a really good key element to speak into. So what would be your advice for girls whose desires don't match up with God's word or
Yeah.
will?
Oh, I'm
Good
just
one,
gonna
right?
I'm just gonna say it straightforward. It won't last. Like,
Yeah.
there's
I love,
always there's
yeah.
always a point.
Yeah.
Like, let's just call it how it is. There's always a
Yeah.
point where you realize it's just not worth it. And
Yeah.
there were so many moments and mornings, nights where I would be indulging in something, and I'm like, this isn't even fun. Like,
Hmm.
everyone thinks that when you're part of the world,
Yeah.
it's like so fun. But in reality, there's something lingering inside of you that's lonely, and there's something lingering
Yeah.
that's empty. And so
Right.
there were many moments where I was like, this is just not fun. This is not
Hmm.
leading me any closer to who am I? Who do I want to
Right.
be?
Yeah.
And so I would probably say you'll probably have to get there on your own, but if I could tell you, like, just just turn away. Just turn
Yeah.
away from what you're doing because it just won't last.
Right.
And not that God hasn't used a lot of my story for healing and redemption in my life, but there's always a part of me that's like, man, knowing what I know now,
Right.
I so just dream of saying yes to Jesus sooner because it's so much greater with
Yeah.
him. And
Right.
it's just so, I just can't even express it. It's just not even close to what the world
Yeah.
can offer.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's so true. And I agree. That's, again, the heart behind this whole podcast is because I wish someone would have come to me sooner to
mhm,
explain the
mhm.
depths and how real Jesus is and the transformation that can take place. I'm like, oh my gosh, April would have been so much further along. But, we can hold both, right? Like, we
Yeah.
can hold the reality of like, it's so important now. Like, the message, the testimonies that God's
Mhm.
placed in us, it's like, it's important to create a space, to have a platform for those to get out there because someone's waiting and begging and praying and so desperate to hear, like, tell
Yeah.
me that someone else is struggling with this too. Tell me
Mhm.
that someone else has walked where I've walked. But at the same time, there's this gratitude that thank God he uses broken
Mhm.
people and broken things and turns it into something beautiful. And so there's no regrets, but there is this, weightiness of, yeah, like for girls that are listening, there's so much truth in the fact of you experienced the worldly things. And while it might have had this like temporary satisfaction in the end,
Yeah.
it honestly left you with more of a weight, more of a
Mhm.
burden, more of that like shame, guilt, whatever word you want to attach to it. And then when you made the hard decision of like laying that before the Lord, that might have been the easy decision, but the hard part
Yeah.
is like walking it out and being, susceptible to the wisdom that was being
Mhm.
brought to you by mentors and then actually
Yeah.
like, putting into action. Then you can be like, dang, this is the fruit that my life is producing. And
Mhm.
part of that is, in your husband, that
Mhm.
the Lord brought him to you. And how beautiful, because I'm sure you were probably thinking at some points like how undeserving, like, God, my
Yeah.
life, where I've been, and
Yeah.
now you're bringing me this individual, like, why? And it's because
Mhm.
he loves you, and
Mhm.
he cares for you. And the fact that your husband is so, mature and knowing that he chose you too, like
Mhm.
he knew all those things, and he wanted you. And I want girls that maybe have slipped up in their past and have that shame
Yeah.
to sometimes I've seen it. Like there are moments where there can be some really hurtful conversations or relationships end because they find out where you've been, what you've done, and they don't want a
Mhm.
part of it. And I just want to bring healing and redemption over that too, because the right
Yeah.
person God has for you, like you're not going to be too much. You're not going to
Mhm.
be, because I struggled with that too. I was like, I have all these sexual addictions. I'm going to walk in and my husband or future person is going to be like, oh gosh, like, I don't
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
it was the opposite. And it made it so much more
Mhm.
beautiful because, again, it was a physical person, not just Jesus,
Mhm.
like choosing me because they had also received that
Yeah.
grace and love. So,
Yeah. I love that. My husband always said to me, like, there's nothing you could share with me that would scare me away. And I
mm,
remember that was so healing and freeing because I was like, okay, well then here you go. Like there's just so
let
many
me put it
things.
all out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also want to add into your question or to the answer of your question, like
Yeah.
ask God, if you're listening to this, ask God to change your heart. And what
Mm,
it felt so scary in the moment to ask God, like, do you actually want me to wait for marriage? Or do you actually want me to walk hand in hand with someone towards marriage? Because I had done so many things quite opposite. and
yeah.
um and I just remember asking that question and God began to change my heart. He changes our hearts for what he wants us to do, right? And so
Yeah.
if he has this desire for you, he doesn't tease you with it when you ask for it. He walks with you
Mm,
through it. And so
it's good.
um yeah, I just remember a lot of things with Micah and God was like, this is my desire for you and this is like
Yeah.
us walking it out together. um so yeah, I hope that brings healing to someone. It can change your heart.
No, and I think that's so good. I loved when you said that even on our panel of just like if you're struggling with this, like because like you had said, you had, crossed those physical boundaries and had
Mm-hmm.
sex before marriage, or whatever, fill in the blanks, and then now you're trying to do it differently and you're like, this is kind of hard,
It's
like
hard, yeah.
how do you do this? You've opened yourself up to something and now you're
Mm-hmm.
like having to like magically close that. And that's not going to
Yeah.
happen on our own terms. And I mean, I've wrestled with very similar things. And so it was like, okay, God, like I want this and I recognize this is something from you, but my flesh is like screaming for something else. So you're going to have to help me navigate that. So I love just that prayer of, honesty of like, God, I want to share the same desires that you have for me. Like give me that desire. And hearing you say that, like, I know that I had girls that came with me from the east side over to the college to hear that. And that was literally their favorite part to hear because they had never heard someone express that. Sometimes you walk into the church and unfortunately there can be a lot of behavior modification of you hear all the time, don't have sex before marriage, don't have sex before marriage. But there's girls that are like, how? Like, and why? And I think there is no better response than saying, this is how the Lord designed it. This is something that's good for us. And if we really want to be all in for Jesus, we have to trust like he knows what's good for me. So I want what he wants for me because my way isn't working. So I love that point that you made of like, just begin to lay it before the Lord and pray for that desire because you were like, okay, I want a godly marriage. Like I want to do this the way God designed it. So you're going to have to change the desire of my heart. I think that's and so good.
Hard doesn't necessarily mean be bad, right? Like hard can bear fruit and endurance bears fruit. And so, and endurance comes from doing the hard things. And so I remember a friend spoke that over me of like, hard doesn't necessarily mean bad. And you're in a hard spot of waiting because you know what it's like. And again, it's not even just for the physical aspects. It's for beyond. What's the definition and heartbeat of a covenant with someone, and you have to do the hard work to get to something beautiful. So
that's good. I like that. Hard is not bad. And it's so true. It's just like the things that are good for our lives, like it does take hard, but we do associate that a lot with bad. And it's opposite. Sometimes people are like, I'm going to be such a loser, like sitting on the sidelines making these decisions and be so judged. And because a lot of it, like you said, like culture treats sex like a transactional item or just this object. And so you don't even think about it because the physical is connected to the emotional. It is connected to the spiritual. And so
it's so spiritual. People don't recognize how spiritual it is. And there's so many, I have so many girls here too that ask me like, why can't I get over this person? Or like, we haven't been together for so long. And that was something too that I struggled with when Mike and I got married, where I was like, I haven't thought of this person in years. And then all of a sudden they're like coming up to my mind. And it was getting down to the reality of God created sex to be spiritual between you and your husband. And so if you do so with someone who's not in the realm of your covenant, there's a spiritual tie to that person. And so I've shared with so many girls before too, of just like, you have to cut off that spiritual aspect with people in your past, because that's probably why they keep coming up, to be really honest. And so
no, it's so true.
It's just people don't know the weight of spiritual weight to being with your husband and being with your wife. So
and it's so hard because it's like with boundaries, we like to get as close to that edge that we can. And I remember even in dating my husband, just the advice of like, don't feel like you have to get as close to that edge, like play it back, just because, once you get to that edge, like you're just going to want to go to the next thing and you're missing out on all the things. Like the enemy wants you to get so fixated on this one piece that's really not the foundation of the relationship. Like I remember as a youth pastor, like, students ask me all the time, like, why aren't you like living together before you're married? Like, don't you want to see like what it's like to live with them? Or like, why aren't you sleeping with them? Don't you want to know that aspect? Because again, you look at culture and television shows like The Bachelor and Bachelorette, like that's such a critical piece that they put in the dating relationship. And it was like, that is not the foundational piece, and it was having to explain, like, I actually want to know him in an intimate way that's not physical before that. And that's not going to alter my opinion. And the reality is too, it's like, just like it takes time to get someone to know someone emotionally and, even spiritually, like physically, it's going to be the same way too. And so that's okay. It's not going to be like, ooh, night one on, the wedding night. And it's just this
night
most magical experience.
The worst conversation I've had with so many friends. And I'm like, why does no one talk about it? Like, no one,
Literally.
everyone's like, oh, your first night. And I'm like, the first night? People need to talk about how to get through the first night before, like,
No. And it's always
anyways.
so funny, because in Christian circles, it's like you're not allowed. You're told no, and then
Yeah.
on this one magical night, everything
Flip a
changes,
switch.
and you're supposed to just know how to navigate each other in that way. And
I
you're like, oh my
know.
God, it's a very
I know.
comical experience. No,
Oh my
I
goodness.
feel you. I love it. We're getting so real here. No. Well, Christina, you honestly, you've shared so many great nuggets throughout all of this. And I know that a lot of young women have been asking these questions and begging just for like transparency in it. So thank you for just being you, for being willing to be vulnerable. And it's been so fun to have you on the podcast.
Yes.
And look, we made it. We did it. Oh my gosh.
Yes, thanks so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this for so long. So
yes,
I love it.
No, you're incredible. And for everyone listening, if this episode spoke to you, which of course it did, make sure to share it with a friend, share it on your socials. And as always, make sure you're following us on Apple or Spotify so that you can stay up to date with what's happening on the podcast, events that are happening. But we love you all. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you all again in a couple of weeks.